What happens when two powerful forces meet live on air, and things take a turn no one expected? The Kelly Clarkson Show was supposed to be just another feel-good celebrity sit-down. A couple of laughs, some inspirational sound bites, and a little promo for whatever project was next. But when Denzel Washington stepped onto that set, calm, measured, and carrying the quiet intensity of a man who's lived through and risen above the fire, no one, not even Kelly, could have predicted how fast the whole thing would unravel. Before we get into this wild moment, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell because trust me, stories like this don't just happen every day. And let us know in the comments what do you think really went down. Now, let's rewind to the moment it all started. From the second Denzel arrived, the studio's energy shifted. Not in an obvious way, not loud, but everyone in that room felt it like something heavy and real had just walked in. Kelly Clarkson, with her usual warmth and southern charm, had her questions ready. This was supposed to be a relaxed segment. Denzel was there to talk about his latest philanthropic work in his life outside of Hollywood. The producers had emphasized the tone, positive, light, uplifting. The cameras rolled, Kelly smiled wide and kicked things off. "I'm seriously honored to have you here today," she began, her voice radiating sincerity. "You've been doing some amazing things off-screen, and it's just so inspiring to see someone with your platform using it to lift others up." Denzel leaned back in his seat. Every movement smooth, deliberate. There was no wasted motion, no performative smile, just presence. Real, unshakable presence. "Appreciate that, Kelly." "So," he said, his voice calm but commanding. "I've always respected how you keep things real with your audience. You don't hide behind the lights. That's rare." But there was something in the way he said it. Not cold, but controlled. Kelly caught it instantly. Years in the game had taught her to spot the shifts, the tensions behind the worst sand. Something was simmering just beneath the surface. She pushed forward, her tone still light. "Well, I do try to keep it real," she said with a chuckle. "Speaking of which, I've got to ask. There's been a lot of talk out there about your relationship with the media. I'm curious, how do you deal with narratives being written about you that aren't necessarily coming from you?" The question was loaded, and they both knew it. Denzel didn't flinch, his eyes locked onto hers. A brief silence filled the room, thick and expectant. "That's an interesting way to frame it," he said slowly, voice low, but razor sharp. "Narratives, they're powerful things, and they're rarely neutral. There's always someone who benefits from keeping certain stories alive." Kelly felt the temperature shift. The audience, once relaxed and laughing, was now silent. Even the crew leaned in, sensing something real was unfolding. "I think a lot of us can relate to that," Kelly said carefully. "This business isn't always fair. Sometimes the story they tell about you isn't the one you'd write for yourself." "Exactly," Denzel replied. But it didn't sound like agreement. It sounded like prelude. "But here's what I find interesting, Kelly," he said, his tone sharpening. "You've built your image on being relatable, the down-to-earth one. But when was the last time you actually had to pay a price for telling the truth?" It hit like a punch. Kelly blinked. Her smile slipped, but only for a second. Years of experience steadied her. "I'm not sure I follow what you mean." "Oh, I think you do," Denzel said, leaning in slightly. "You sit here in this comfortable chair asking tough questions about other people's battles with the media, but you've never had to weigh your family's safety against the spotlight, have you? You've never had to wonder if telling the truth might put the people you love in harm's way." Kelly's jaw clenched ever so slightly. She wasn't rattled, but she was listening now, closer than ever. "Denzel," she said, her voice even, "I respect your experiences truly, but I think you're making a few assumptions about mine that might not be entirely fair." And just like that, the atmosphere had shifted again. No yelling, no theatrics, just two seasoned pros face to face, trading truths like punches in a silent ring. And this was only the beginning. "Am I?" Denzel shot back, his calm beginning to crack, just slightly revealing the fire beneath the surface. "Because from where I'm sitting, Kelly, it sure looks like your road's been paved smooth. American Idol, a hit talk show, a music career built on being relatable. That's a luxury a lot of people don't get." The studio was frozen in place now. The silence was thick, like the whole room had stopped breathing. Kelly could feel every eye in that building, her crew, her audience, and now millions at home, watching as this conversation veered off the rails in real time. "Luxury," Kelly repeated, the word hitting a nerve. Her voice carried a new edge, one rarely heard in her show. "Denzel, I don't know what you're trying to imply, but suggesting that my career's been easy, that I haven't had to fight for it, that's not just wrong, it's insulting." Denzel leaned forward slightly. No theatrics, just steel in his eyes. I'm not trying to imply anything, he said, each word landing with intent. I'm just saying some of us have paid a heavier toll for telling the truth. And that toll doesn't always come with applause. Something cracked inside Kelly then. Not publicly, not visibly, but somewhere deep. The insinuation that she hadn't earned what she hadn't suffered in silence, hit straight at the heart of who she was. Her hands tightened around the arms of her chair, her posture shifting, the warmth in her voice, replaced by something raw. Heavier toll, Kelly echoed, voice low but sharp. You don't know the first damn thing about what I've been through. You want to talk truth? Fine. Let's be real clear about what's happening here. You came on this show with an agenda, and it sure as hell wasn't just about charity work. For the first time, Denzel's polished mask slipped just briefly. Beneath a composed calm, something fierce sparked in his expression. I came here thinking I'd be talking to someone who understood what it feels like to be dissected by the media, he said, his tone now openly defensive. Clearly, I misjudged that. Oh, you misjudged. All right, Kelly snapped back, her Texas accent cutting deeper now as emotion rose. You walked into my house and tried to downplay what I've survived. Make your point, but don't rewrite my story in the process. The tension was a living thing now. The producers behind the cameras waved frantically, trying to signal for a break, but neither Kelly nor Denzel was letting go of the moment. My house, Denzel repeated, lifting his brows ever so slightly, a bitter smile touching his lips. That's a hell of a phrase because from what I've seen, this house was built on being safe, being palatable. That has to be exhausting, pretending to be everything to everyone all the time. Kelly's eyes burned. You know what's exhausting? She fired back. Watching someone who's been handed every platform, every privilege, stand there like they're the only one who's ever had to struggle. You've had Hollywood at your feet. Awards, headlines, global admiration. And when the spotlight got too hot, you had the freedom to walk away. Not all of us get that choice. Denzel's voice rose for the first time, his steady demeanor finally cracking open. You think walking away was a choice? He said, his voice echoing through the studio. You think it was easy watching my family's safety hang in the balance? Seeing lies printed day after day, watching people sit silent while I was publicly dragged. You think any of that was a luxury? Kelly was already rising from her chair. Gone was the host. This was the woman behind the spotlight now, the one who'd endured 2 decades of public scrutiny. And you think you're the first one to go through it? She shot back. You think you're the first one to be lied about? The first to have your family attacked. I've been doing this for over 20 years. My body's been judged. My parenting, my marriage, all of it torn apart in headlines. The difference is I never expected the world to stop spinning for me. Denzel stood up, too. Now they faced each other. 2 towering presences divided by nothing but a coffee table and a mountain of tension. The audience didn't make a sound. Some had phones out. Others were frozen in disbelief, watching this fall apart in real time. Expected the world to stop spinning. Denzel's voice was now almost a whisper, laced with fury. I never asked for the world to stop. I asked for one simple thing. Basic human decency. But apparently that's too damn much when you're dealing with a system more concerned with preserving a machine than protecting the people inside it. Don't you dare. Kelly snapped, pointing straight at him. Don't you dare turn this into some noble crusade. You knew what came with the spotlight. You knew what came with that platform. And instead of facing it with some damn grace, you decided to burn it all down and play the victim. The words came from Kelly like a strike, and they hit with precision. They lingered in the air, daring Denzel to react. His face flickered. Surprise. A flicker of hurt. And then nothing but cold resolve. Grace, he repeated softly, the word tasting bitter. You want to talk about Grace, Kelly? He stepped slightly forward, voice low and heavy. Let me tell you about Grace. Grace is keeping your mouth shut while people spread lies about you. Grace is smiling in public when you're breaking apart in private. Grace is protecting people who wouldn't even flinch to protect you. His voice hardened. I had Grace for years. You know what it got me? Silence. More attacks. More people in power looking the other way while I was torn apart. Kelly shook her head, frustration flashing across her face. So your answer was to go on TV and air every private detail you could, knowing it would damage people, even people who couldn't fight back. Denzel let out a humorless laugh, quiet and sharp. Fight back, Kelly. They've got entire infrastructure and structures designed to fight back. Teams of press secretaries, PR handlers, journalists on speed dial. They can shape any story they want. His voice dropped into something more personal. What did I have? What do any of us have when we stand up against a machine that was built to silence us? Kelly didn't hesitate. You had choices, she said firmly. You always had choices. You could have kept your focus on the work, on the impact, on the legacy. You could have proved them wrong by rising above it. That's what strength looks like. Denzel's eyes narrowed, his jaw set. Easy to say when you've never had to choose between your sanity and loyalty to people who would never offer you the same. I've had to make hard choices, too, Kelly snapped. But I didn't run to the nearest microphone every time someone hurt my pride. That one landed. Denzel stepped in closer, the space between them charged now, the conversation collapsing into something more dangerous. Intimate, quiet, and sharp. Hurt my pride. His voice was barely above a whisper now. They didn't just hurt me, Kelly. They tried to break me, to erase me. This wasn't about reputation. This was about survival. And when I finally found the strength to speak, people like you wanted to lecture me about the high road. Kelly didn't back down. There's a difference between speaking your truth and burning down everyone else's along with it. You didn't just tell your story, Denzel. You told theirs, whether they wanted it or not. Denzel blinked, stunned. You mean the truth, he said flatly. You mean what actually happened. I'm sorry if that made people uncomfortable. I was done protecting people who never protected me. They were close now, their voices low but volatile. Whispers with the force of thunder. The kind of intensity that made silence feel louder than shouting. Kelly's eyes locked on his. You know what I think, Denzel? She said, her voice trembling. Not with fear, but with truth. I think you've spent so long being the victim in your story, you don't even realize you're becoming the one doing the damage. Those words hit like a punch. Damage? Denzel's voice cracked slightly. I was protecting my family, Kelly. I was protecting my son from growing up in a system designed to crush him the same way it tried to crush me. By taking others down with you, Kelly fired back. By dragging people through the mud who weren't even in the fight, that's not protection. That's revenge. The word hung between them like a wire about to snap. Denzel's hands were trembling now. The calm was gone. The mask shattered. Revenge, he echoed, his voice shaking. You think telling the truth is revenge? I think selective truth is revenge, Kelly said, her voice now cool, cutting through the heat like ice. I think picking and choosing which parts of the story to tell, while leaving out the ones that don't fit the image, that's manipulation, and you're too damn smart not to know the difference. Denzel recoiled like he'd been physically struck. His voice dropped to a low growl. Selective truth. Every word I said was real. Every experience I shared happened. I'm not saying it didn't, Kelly replied. Her voice was softer now, but no less piercing. I'm saying maybe you didn't tell the whole truth. Maybe you only told the parts that made you look like the hero. Hero? Denzel's voice cracked. You think I went through that hell to be a hero? You think I risked my family, my peace, my name so people would like me? Kelly's eyes didn't move. She stood her ground. I think you were angry, and I think some of that anger was justified. But I also think you wanted someone to pay for it, and maybe they deserved it. But that doesn't mean the way you did it was right. The studio was silent. So silent you could hear the hum of the cameras and the faint sound of someone's breath catching in the audience. This wasn't just a conversation anymore. This was a reckoning. Even the crew, who'd been waving, mouthing, practically begging for a commercial break, had frozen. They were transfixed now. Like the rest of the world, they couldn't look away from what was unfolding on that stage. You have no idea what you're talking about, Denzel said, his voice low, almost broken. You have no idea what it's like to be completely alone. To have nobody in your corner. To watch people you trusted hand you over to the wolves without blinking. Kelly's voice dropped to a near whisper. You weren't alone, Denzel. You had Peta. You had your family, each other. That's more than most people have when they're getting torn apart. Had Peta, Denzel said bitterly, letting out a hollow, tired laugh. Kelly, I watched the system try to break the woman I love. I watched it chew her up while she stood by me. I watched it force me into impossible choices between the spotlight and our sanity. You know what that does to a man? What it does to a marriage? For the first time, something in Kelly's expression softened. Not much, but enough. I can't imagine how hard that was, she said quietly. But going public with all of it, making it everyone's burden. That didn't help her. That didn't help you. That just made it worse for everyone. Made it worse. Denzel's voice rose, cracking through the quiet like a whip. Kelly, staying silent, was killing me. Not metaphorically, literally. I was having thoughts about ending it all because I couldn't see any way out. So forgive me if I chose survival over protecting people who were never going to protect me." The words landed with a gut-punch force. Kelly's face shifted. The fire in her eyes dimmed, shaken for the first time. "Denzel," she said quietly. I didn't know it was that serious." "Of course you didn't," he replied, eyes wet now but voice unwavering. "Because people like you don't want to know about that part. You want the drama, the Hollywood scandal, the who said what. You don't want to see the human cost. Because it's messy, because it ruins the image." Kelly sat back slightly, her entire posture softening. The fight in her eyes was faltering. She hadn't come into this expecting this. She thought she was pushing against ego. She hadn't expected raw pain. "I'm sorry," she said, her voice real now. "I didn't realize how much you were hurting." "No," Denzel said, brushing a tear from his cheek. "You're not sorry. You're uncomfortable. There's a difference." He took a step forward. "You're uncomfortable because I'm not playing the game the way you think I should. Because I'm not smiling and dancing and making everything easy to swallow." Kelly frowned. "What game?" "The game where we pretend everything's fine." Denzel snapped. "Where we smile, wave, and never talk about the cost of this life. The game where we protect systems that were never built to protect us. You've been playing that game so long, Kelly. You don't even see that it's a game anymore." "That's not fair," Kelly said sharply. "I've been honest. I've talked about my divorce, about gaining weight, about being a single mom." Denzel tilted his head, eyes narrowing. "Safe struggles," he said. "Things that make you relatable, but don't make anyone uncomfortable. Things that don't challenge power, don't cost you fans, don't risk sponsors. When's the last time you used your platform to call out something that actually mattered? Something that might have cost you something?" Kelly's jaw tensed, her voice hardened again. "I use my platform to lift people up," she said. "To give them joy, to make them feel like they're not alone." "Not everyone needs to be a revolutionary," Kelly said, her voice still tight with frustration. Denzel didn't hesitate. "Not everyone needs to be a people pleaser either," he shot back, fire flickering behind his eyes. "Some of us choose to use our voice for something bigger than just making people feel comfortable." Kelly scoffed, her tone laced with bitter sarcasm. "Is that what you call it?" she asked. "Using your voice? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks a lot more like you burned everything around you to the ground and then called it activism." There was a pause, a long one. Denzel stared at her long and hard. His expression didn't flinch, but something deep within it shifted. When he finally spoke, his voice was steady, low, lethal in its calm. "You know what, Kelly," he said. "I came here thinking maybe we'd understand each other. I thought maybe you'd be different from all the other hosts who come smiling with soft questions and pre-approved scripts. But you're not different. You've just perfected the art of hiding your judgment behind a smile." That hit its mark. Kelly blinked, visibly rattled. "I'm not judging you," she replied, defensively. "I'm trying to understand how someone can hurt so many people and still see the Pavs as the victim." Denzel took a slow breath. Then with surgical precision. "And I'm trying to understand how someone with as much privilege and platform as you uses it to tear down a man who's already been dragged through hell and back." There was nothing left to say. His tone was cool now. Final. He reached up and began unclipping at his microphone. "I think we're done here," he said quietly. The room held its breath. Kelly instinctively stepped forward. "Denzel, wait." Her voice was softer now, almost pleading. "It doesn't have to end like this." Denzel paused, glancing at her with something that wasn't anger anymore. Maybe pity, maybe disappointment. "Yes, it does, Kelly," he said. Because this right here, this is exactly what I was talking about. You want the version of the truth that fits in a sound bite that won't make your audience squirm. That won't make you squirm." He looked around at the silent, frozen studio, cameras still rolling, a sea of eyes glued to the moment. "You don't want truth, Kelly," he continued, clipping the mic cord loose from his jacket. "You want comfort disguised as honesty. You want just enough edge to look brave, but not enough to cost you anything." Kelly opened her mouth. "That's not true." But even as she said it, she wasn't sure she believed it. Denzel turned fully to face her now. "Isn't it?" he asked. "Tell me, Kelly, what are you going to do with this interview? Are you going to air it as it happened? Or are you going to chop it down, smooth it out, cut out the parts that make your sponsors nervous?" Kelly didn't answer, not because she didn't want to, because for once she couldn't. The silence between them was suffocating. Denzel nodded once slowly, like a man who already knew the answer. He straightened his jacket, looked around the studio one final time, then looked back at her. "That's what I thought," he said, voice just above a whisper. "Thanks for proving my point." And with that, he turned and walked off the set. No storming, no shouting, just a quiet, devastating exit, the kind that lasts. Kelly stood still, holding the microphone like it had suddenly gained weight. Her entire body language shifted, uncertain, exposed. She looked out at the studio audience, most of whom were too stunned to react. Some had phones in their hands, capturing everything. Others sat frozen, as if they had just witnessed something too real for daytime television. The cameras kept rolling. No one said cut. No one moved. Finally, one of the producers in the booth whispered something into a headset. The lights dimmed slightly. The illusion was broken, but the damage already done. What had started as a polished segment about charity work and inspirational storytelling had unraveled into something much deeper, something raw, something uncomfortable, something real. And now, whether either of them liked it or not, it would live forever online, in clips, in think pieces, in reaction videos, and dueling comment sections. So now the question becomes, what do you think really happened behind the scenes? Was Denzel right to call out what he saw as complacency wrapped in kindness? Was he justified in turning the lens back on the interviewer, forcing a reckoning on national television? Or did he cross a line? Did he go too far in attacking someone who may have meant well? Someone who was just trying to do her job? Did he lose control of the message in pursuit of the moment? We want to hear from you. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Was this a clash of egos or a necessary confrontation about power, pain, and performance? And whatever side you're on, make sure to subscribe for more stories that pull back the curtain on what really happens when the cameras start rolling and the truth refuses to be edited out. Because sometimes the most powerful thing someone can do is stop smiling and start telling the whole